Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today, I experienced my first 12-string Rickenbacker. Honestly, it's kind of my first independent 12-string guitar, to the best of my knowledge. Like, I fiddled around on a few, like in Guitar Center before, and of course I had the double neck slash and the fake double neck, but, you know, that's a 12-string mixed with a 6-string, so it's not quite the same as just having a guitar that has 12 strings, just straight up, especially an electric one. So this was actually sponsored as a new Guitar Day purchase, and oh yes, I'm looking forward to these. I need those today. But this is actually a repeat new Guitar Dayer. Wilfredo over here, he had purchased a Rickenbacker last year and enjoyed the process so much he decided to sponsor this one. It was between this one and like a different Beatles signature. I forget what brand it was. I'll put it up on the screen just for fun, but he decided to go with this because normally Rickenbackers, you gotta wait like a year for these things to come in stock. But thankfully, Sweetwater, Nate Burkhart over there, he's always good to me. So we just happened to have a few of them in stock, so we worked a deal on that to get him a guitar super fast. But above everything else, you know, just trying a 12-string out separately, I've always been fascinated with the way Rickenbacker does it. I mean, they were not the first company to do a 12-string guitar, but they were the ones that, you know, really made it popular because of the Beatles picking them up among many other bands and things like that. So they're definitely iconic in their own right, but just in case you've never actually, you know, looked at a 12-string Rickenbacker before, you're about to see what I'm talking about as far as, you know, always wanting to try one of these. Inside here, we have the Rickenbacker 360 12C63. But you're probably thinking, where's our 12 strings? Why does this not have a giant headstock? It's because Rickenbacker has one of the most interesting 12-string designs, in my opinion, because you get your regular tuners here, right? But then your other ones are just mounted to the side of the headstock and they slot it. That way you can still restring it and everything. I find that super fascinating, but I had a few people after I complimented it say, you know, it looks cool, but in practice it's not as good as I'm making it out to be. So hey, what better way to know for sure than trying it out myself? But a beautiful kind of a Fireglo, I think. Basically, cherry sunburst here. We get a multi-pieced neck. It looks like 5 pieces if you count the wings, 3 if you just count the actual neck. But we ended up picking this one because it had a little bit of an extra wood grain flair to the back here. But, you know, just first impressions, you know, finally having a guitar that is just, yeah, it's needs tuned a little bit, but it's not too bad. I always like the way that Rickenbacker does this wooden layer and then the binding, but what's different this time that I'm noticing is we get these red side dot inlays. And also, if you're not familiar with what a 12-string is, you have your regular strings, but then they're like octaves, some of them change. You can do a bunch of different stuff with 12 strings, but Rickenbackers, they're known for their wangly jangly tone. So let's go ahead and throw this guy on the workbench, painstakingly take an individual look at its parts and specs. These Rickenbackers are a little bit more confusing than other guitars, and, you know, 12 strings. Let's just go ahead and get to it. I always told myself I never wanted to tear a Rickenbacker apart again, let alone a 12-string, but hey, it wasn't so bad the second time now that I know what I'm doing. So our toaster top pickups, they call them that because, well, it looks like you're going to put a piece of bread in there and make some toast. This is what it looks like on the back. I didn't bother taking this one apart, that way I can actually show you some things. So where they mount to the body is normally like on Gibson territory where the height adjustment springs are. The flat screws on the side are just securing like the pickup topper to it. And you've got those rubber grommets on each side. And you can see right there where they rest against the body, the rubber reacts with the finish, but since you technically never take it off, it really doesn't matter. But they just sit right on top right there. There's just a very small route right here, just to have enough room for those wires sticking out of it. And inside here, you can see the 2 truss rods that these ricks have. And while putting that pickup back in, I just realized the bridge is really cool on this thing. So instead of like the last one that we had where I had to take it off and show you and where all the rubber grommets kind of affected the finish, The 12-string version, it's just like, it looks like a house, but the strings go through the top and that secures it. But what's nice is it's like a little hinge that you just get right there and it clips onto there. So if you're just need to work on your guitar real quick, it's actually pretty easy and not get all your strings all tangled up because they're just secured into that. They won't come off. So our bridge setup, last time we did not get to see that because I wasn't feeling very adventurous. Here's how they work. They got this big base plate that secures right on top of here. Then everything gets grounded off just because that's on top of that ground wire. And then it gets screwed into place right here. And as far as the actual bridge apparatus, it looks like this, kind of like Gibson's old harmonica bridge. But you can see these small areas right here. That allows the height adjustment screws to go up and down and offers them a place to rest. Then I guess Rickenbacker thinks that's ugly, so they have this little thing over top of that to hide it, and that just secures by 2 little flathead screws right there. So that's what the whole mystery behind that bridge is. But that's pretty much everything here on the front. You can see it's at least 3 pieces here, so it's all maple. You can kind of see like the neck block going all the way down here. As far as the top, it's in a Fireglo finish, and this is all maple, as far as the body goes anyways. You get the maple top, then you get the maple sides and the back that we'll see later. But when I was playing this guitar, this caught me off guard. Somebody needs to tell me if this is how it's supposed to be or if it's just kind of the leftover red paint. It almost looks like they put like a tortoiseshell binding on this. And it's only on that area. And now as far as our electronics are concerned. So I did a little bit of reading up again to refresh myself. So Rickenbacker's volume controls are down here and tone controls are up here. But this guy is specifically for your neck pickup because traditionally these things are overpowered, so you use this to kind of tame them, and then you just have all your regular controls. But that can also come in handy within the middle position, so you're just kind of blending the neck pickup in with the bridge at that point. That's to my best understanding and how I kind of demoed it today. So 3-way toggle switch, everything normal, neck, middle, bridge. 2 volumes, 2 tones, and kind of a blend knob. A lot of people modify them to do a whole bunch of stuff because they don't care for it. But the pickguard itself, it's kind of interesting how it attaches to the body, because this is your control plate. This is your pickguard. It's kind of like a double-decker sandwich going on here. This is actually what you use to secure it to the body as well. Those screws go all the way down. I always thought that was kind of interesting about these Rickenbackers. And here's what the end of the tailpiece looks like, just secured by 4 screws. And you get the cool strap buttons. They're bolts. They go into the body. You don't actually use a screw to get them out. You got to use like a spanner tool. But moving on from our maple body, we get a lacquered rosewood fretboard here. Now, I did want to take some time to mention there seems to be like a lot of little bubbles in here, and it doesn't quite make sense. Like there's one right here. You can't really feel them, but it's like a dip. So I don't know if this is technically considered a defect or if it's just what you expect when you get a Rickenbacker, but I noticed there were quite a few of those on this guitar. There's another one. I didn't feel them while playing or anything, but they're definitely there. But I love the rosewood fretboard on this thing. It's really cool looking. Don't you guys agree? Look at all that wood grain. Spoiler alert, under blacklight it looks even cooler. But these inlays, they've got a little bit of a grayish tint to it, so it doesn't quite stand out quite as much as like a pure white. I thought that was a nice little touch. As far as the nut, it is a Bakelite nut. I was noticing it was going ping, ping, ping quite a bit when tuning up. As far as our neck dimensions, 1.63 inches at the nut, so rather skinny, and 1.94 by the 12th. Yeah, that is fairly a skinny neck right there, but 0.94. It's a pretty chunky neck at the 1st fret neck depth. And then at the 12th fret, 0.98, so it's a pretty nice rounded neck profile, I would say. It works well for the 12 strings. And then moving on to the face of the headstock. So we get the Rickenbacker truss rod cover, which covers all this stuff up. I think they call it a lithograph at the back, so if you scratch the back, you're actually scratching the Rickenbacker name because it's just like a clear plastic on top of that. But here you can see the double truss rods. It kind of looks like a murder scene with all that red paint on top of it. But this headstock, do I like it or not? Here's what I do like. It's not 12 miles long like the EDS 1275 or other Gibson 12-string necks, where it just looks a little bit ridiculous. This still has kind of a more regular-looking headstock to it. But it took some time for me to get used to what string is what. So your basic regular strings, the first one that you strum, it's your regular ones. So on the side, on the side, on the side. But when you switch over to your treble side, the first string in the pair,
becomes the one that's on the back. And in my eyes, that seems weird. I would rather the main string be the one that's here for each of them, because it just makes sense. But once you get used to where all these things are going, it does make sense. I do like the design. But have no fear, we will still try to get pickup readings, but I wanted to take some more time to talk about this. So this actually has 2 output jacks. And what we're doing here is this is a stereo guitar. So I'm not sure which is which, but I would guess this is actually for the neck pickup and this is for the bridge pickup. So you can run each pickup into a different amp. Say you wanted this into a slightly overdriven tube amp, you could do that. And this just be really bright, shiny, and clean. Those are some options that you have. Or you can just plug it in like normal and play, like I did for this demo, because I didn't have 2 amps that I wanted to run it through. But if I remember correctly, I think last time we weren't able to get any readings out of this thing because the wiring is just strange. And yep, that looks like the same thing on this one. But Rickenbackers actually have their serial numbers on the outside of the output jack. So right here it says 20 for 2020, and that's the rest of our serial number, 36699. And just in case somebody were to replace that as a failsafe, they also put that in here, 36699. My new feelings on this headstock after trying to restring it and tune it up, these tuners, absolute garbage. I don't know why they even use them. I mean, they're Rickenbacker branded Klusons, so you'd think they'd be fine, but they get caught in these cycles. Like, look, it's just all loose, and this is a brand new guitar. Like, you gotta start turning it, and then it'll kind of lock back into place, but as soon as you let go, all the tension's gone. And that's how all of these things are, so it's not just like a faulty tuner. And they're really hard to turn, and it's not just because of their positioning. I just think we need better tuners on these things. But just to elaborate a little bit more on these side tuners here, so it's kind of like a classical guitar. It's not completely routed through, they just have enough that you string it through the post and then you turn it and get it on. I would not want to be tasked with having to actually restring one of these. Just putting them back into place was hard enough. I don't know, maybe just doing it one string at a time would be easy enough. But anyways, let's go ahead and flip on over to the back. There's not much to talk about here. We just get the binding on the top and the back, except for that on the front you had that German carve area where it didn't have binding. But nothing too fancy back here, just some beautiful maple wood grain. That actually does look pretty nice. I really like this Fireglo finish. Slowly fades into like a slight pink before getting to yellow, and I think that's why it's more appealing to me. I find it strange on their spec sheet. They don't actually tell us what the center wood is. I'm assuming it's walnut, but the other stripes anyways are maple. So pretty cool. And our last spec, the weight, 7 pounds, 14.5 ounces, pretty much 8 pounds. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how it sounds. Yeah, so it's kind of like nothing we've really demoed on the channel before. So, we'll go ahead and just run through these tones real quick. So the neck pickup is really what's interesting about this thing. I mean, as we learned on the workbench, that this is what this is controlling here. So we'll start with it all the way on, and then we'll just kind of slowly roll it off here with a very simple riff. So as you can see, it's just kind of affecting the volume of it. So you might be saying, well, what's the point of that? Well, it's because when you're pairing it with the bridge pickup, that's when things get very different. So it can kind of help you blend how bright you want that middle position, and you just get some interesting tones out of it. Overall, it's kind of a fun guitar to have around. I mean, is it for everybody spending, as much money as these things cost? Rickenbacker doesn't advertise their prices, but retail on these, I think it was like $3,500, something close to that. So it's kind of expensive, but if you're a big Beatles fan, you probably want something similar to this. I certainly enjoyed getting to check it out. I can't really call as like a formal review or anything outside of what we talked about on the workbench because it's my first 12 string. I have nothing else to really compare it to except for it's kind of fun. It really inspires you to play some different stuff. Makes you think outside the box, goes back to some of those like 60s tunes. Unfortunately, copyright and everything, I can't play them exactly the way I would want to, but I hope this kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. Now, as far as distortion tones, I'll try to think of something here for you. That was a lot more fun than I was expecting. Sorry, Rickenbacker fans, I just disgraced this guitar probably, but I had fun anyways. Alright, Troglodytes, thank you for tuning in today, checking out this very interesting Rickenbacker. Definitely an eye-opening experience. Take care.